cases. The new infections include 26 in Gansu and 23 in Guangxi. China has launched a campaign to improve digital literacy and skills of the general public. The event comes as part of the 5th Digital China Summit in Fuzhou. China has welcomed the signing of a landmark deal to transfer Ukrainian grain, foodstuff, and fertilizer to the international markets. Chinese permanent representative to the UN, Zhang Jun, urges all stakeholders to maintain the momentum of dialogue and foster conditions for the early restoration of peace. Russia and Ukraine have separately signed a deal with Turkey and the UN to resume grain shipments from Ukrainian ports to the international markets via the Black Sea. Mihail Bar-David brings more details from Istanbul.
The main aim of the deal signed here in Istanbul is to allow Ukrainian and Russian food and fertilizer to reach global markets safely. Around 22 million tons of grain has been stuck in Ukraine's Odessa port. UN officials have stated that the conflict in Ukraine has become a large component of the global food crisis.
And let there be no doubt, this is an agreement for the world. It will bring relief for developing countries on the edge of bankruptcy and the most vulnerable people on the edge of famine.
As part of the agreement, a joint coordination center will be created in Istanbul under the auspices of the United Nations and will include representatives of Russia, Ukraine, and Turkey.
And that's the news. I'm Wenji.
This is ironic because, we have this vast prison industrial complex in the United States where prisoners are forced to work and they make extremely low wages. We know that Nike, we know that many other leading American companies take advantage of this labor, and yet we know that in the Volkswagen factories there's no forced labor. So, as I said, the allegations are false. It's really just this cancel culture politics that has taken root in the West and has tried to take aim at Beijing.
I think this decision made by Volkswagen is great and should be given high respect and appreciation. For the Chinese and Xinjiang people, there are good news that Volkswagen can continue to operate in Xinjiang. That can help the local people to get rich, to have their jobs, and also to have more employment. It depends on the short term and long term. The people who benefit first are those who are the anti-China folks, because they will say, we suffered from China, look at what we accomplished. But eventually, there will be a huge impact on the economy. There's going to be more severe supply chain disruptions. The economies from other countries are going to start to go down. And then they'll suddenly discover that had they had been more cooperative with China, perhaps their economies would have done better.
The Chat Lounge.
Chat Lounge.
The Chat Lounge unpacks views and opinions on hot issues in a more casual way.
Welcome to the Chat Lounge. I'm Tuyun. Joining our discussion on why Volkswagen says no to demands that it shut down its plant in China's Xinjiang are Liu Zhixing, Senior Fellow at the Chongyang Institute for Financial Studies of Beijing-based Renmin University of China, Professor Joseph Mahoney of East China Normal University in Shanghai, and author and our very own commentator, Thomas Parkin II. Welcome to you all. So we know German automaker Volkswagen has reaffirmed its stance to continue operations in China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, despite pressure from the German government. It's reporting China Chief Executive Stefan Wallenstein repeated the commitment last week. So let me start with Zhixing. How unusual does this seem to you, given the German automakers' low-key style, especially when it comes to politically related issues?
Yes, this is a very good question, because as we know that in the past 3 or 6 months that Western countries' politicians placed great pressure on Xinjiang issue, and they used all means and measures to contain and to restrain the foreign companies to be involved in Xinjiang operations. But the Volkswagen has a different idea and a different decision. This is the reason why the Volkswagen is not a small company. It's a huge and a great company in the world market. So that means it has a significant and influential if the decision is made. And secondly, also for the Chinese Xinjiang people, there are good news that Volkswagen can continue to operate in Xinjiang. That can help the local people to get rich, to have their jobs, and also to have more employment. So this is from both sides, outside and inside. Our think this decision made by Volkswagen is great and should be given high respect and appreciation. I hope that the German government can have a special decision and special admission for Volkswagen to support this decision. As we know that Western countries always say that they are market system, market economy. We let the market to decide the decision, not the government.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, they will follow this market rules. But Joseph, how unusual does this seem to you?
Well, I think I agree that it does seem, out of step with what we've seen from some other companies who've, been bullied into this facetious narrative that's been promoted in the West about genocide in Xinjiang. And we know, if we historicize this narrative, we know that it really begins to accelerate. It really begins to be promoted by the United States with Trump's decision to unilaterally withdraw from Afghanistan, after 2 decades of wrecking that country. And this then really begins to accelerate in the context of discussions in Europe. So we've seen this really vitriolic anti-China press in some quarters of Europe. I won't name names, but a lot of the publishers or broadcasters, their name starts with the letter B. And the bottom line is they put incredible pressure on companies, but politicians. They do hit pieces on anyone who speaks to the contrary. I had a good friend who had a hit piece published on him because he was saying something that wasn't just outlandishly crazy about China. He was trying to promote a reasonable approach in Berlin, and he was accused in a national magazine of being an agent for the Chinese Communist Party. So, smart, level-headed people tend to be quiet now, and the floor has really been heated to people who just want to promote hatred and mischaracterizations. And we have to go back to the simple fact that even in the Biden administration, the legal department of the State Department had concluded that there was no genocide taking place in Xinjiang. But nevertheless, this narrative has taken root, and it puts tremendous pressure on companies. But as my colleague said, Volkswagen has a much bigger presence. It has a much bigger presence in China. It has a much longer and deeper history in China, and it's likely to be more sensitive not only